It's 5 p.m. Eastern. It's time for the Wrestling Mat. I am Matt Camp. Welcome in on this Tuesday afternoon. If you're watching live, thank you as always. Let's see what you got in the chat. We'll be taking your questions. If you're watching on demand, that's okay too. Maybe you found us because you are subscribed to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. The Wrestling Match Show, as always, right under Todd. There it is, the Wrestling Match Show. I shouldn't do thumbs down. It should be thumbs up. Thumbs up. There you go. There's your gift. TheWrestlingMatchShow.com. Yes, please subscribe to that, as we have been telling you guys, because we got over the 1,000 subscriber mark and climbing. Please keep that number up. Please keep it going. We'll be dropping our first piece of bonus content. Yes, bonus content coming your way sometime next week. We do know what it is. It is myself and the great Chef Reactions, who made the announcement the other day that he would be part of the Wrestling Mat channel going forward. So if you like him, and you should, because he's funny as hell, and he loves wrestling, and he likes reacting to things other than food. And we will be reacting to the first episode of WCW Monday Nitro. That episode drops next week, but you don't know when. And if you want to make sure you see it, as soon as it drops, you subscribe to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. Turn the notifications on, and you won't miss a thing. Hello, Phil. Broken Kayfabe. You did make a live stream. Welcome in. That means you have a chance to get your questions in live, which I will answer throughout the program. As I said, you subscribe to the WrestlingMatchShow.com. We have a lot of content. All of our live shows are up there. The past episodes, we break those down into segments, including the featured clip that went up today from last week's interview with Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder. I asked Matt, would Zack Ryder fit better in 2024 WWE? Want to go find out his answer? Go check it out and subscribe at the WrestlingMatchShow.com. Interviews up there with Chef Reactions, with Matt Cardona, with Joey Janela, with Dan Reichert. Trying to make a couple more of those happen in the next couple of weeks. Who would you like to see right here on the Wrestling Mat? Please let us know. From any part of the world of wrestling, we'll do our best to make that happen. But that clip is up, and go check that out. Go check out our shorts as well. Very funny short up there from our interview with Dan Reicher, talking about Undertaker, talking about his YouTube face. And if you want to go back and check out that episode, we tell you all about what happened to Undertaker's podcast that was supposed to happen on WWE programming. And if it happened, you probably wouldn't be seeing Taker YouTube face. That's my best impression of Taker YouTube face. Okay, I'm done. The polls are up, right? So stupid, isn't it? Cynthia Camp loves the polls. Sure. POLLS. Absolutely. And we have those up right now. First poll going up. Did you enjoy all 3 hours of Monday Night Raw? And I will be honest, it's starting to feel like 3 hours again. 3 hours of Raw and not enough programming to fill it all up. It's a bit slow again. It was a go-home show last night, wasn't it? Just throwing that out there. We're going to get to that in a second. Tom Green, love the new light. If it's not a new light, I still love it nonetheless. We made some adjustments to the lighting. I don't know how I feel about it yet. There's a little orange tint, so I'm going to have heat with Taz. And I'm kind of wearing orange. I don't know if you can totally tell. So, my God, Taz is going to whoop my ass whenever his knee feels better. Do not send Hook. Do not send Hook. Tom Green says, Noli says, I want Danhausen, Mr. Beast, and Will Ospreay. I told him to temper expectations on a couple of them. Noli, you might be on to something. Broken Kayfabe, I feel like Triple H wouldn't appreciate Matt Cardona and would probably be similar. Although Cody having all the stroke, maybe Matt could be his manager. I think, as Matt has mentioned, he does not want to wear the Nightmare Family jacket anymore, or doing that. Yeah, Triple H kind of cut that Cardona thing off. My whole thing with Matt, and I think he knows this, what Matt is doing right now is he's owning the indies because of everything else he's done and because he's evolved himself, and he sticks out in that way. And he can call his own shots. And to be fair, because not everybody does this well, Matt Cardona is calling his own shots and drawing as a result. Matt Cardona will let egg be on his face at times. He will take the bumps. He will look foolish. He is the ultimate heel who knows how to get heat and how to build for something down the road. He does good business. He draws good business. There is a lot to that. I respect what Matt Cardona is doing because, A, he's a hell of a businessman in a world that you have to know the business and how to make yourself a business and how to make your brand something. But Matt knows how to pull other people in. And I think he's doing a really good job of that. Steph DeLander, what he's done in GCW, you name it, taking the GCW title away from Danhausen. You want to talk about taking it away from a babyface and getting heat there. Matt knows how to handle himself, and he knows how to put himself in the right spots, but he also knows how, because of his spotlight, others can be pulled into that and made into something greater. Broken kayfabe, I heard from someone in the business that Matt Cardona is the one that really helped Cody with his indie strategy. Could be true. They are very good friends. I know Kevin Owens kind of said to the Young Bucks, hey, take care of this guy. And obviously Cody and the Bucks connected, and we see where that went. That's interesting. Look, Matt knew what he was doing. Matt knew what he was doing, as he talked about on the show before he got let go. He was ready when he did get let go. He had a lot of green lights. He could go, okay, let's go with this now, because he couldn't do it in WWE. And he did say, and I know he was on another show or something like that, but he said it on this show, listen, who wouldn't want to go wrestle at Madison Square Garden again? Who wouldn't want to be in front of those big crowds? I don't want to wrestle for the rest of my life necessarily in these smaller crowds. So I think that feeling's there. Him wrestling Edge, Copeland, in front of a crowd in AEW versus the crowds he's typically been working in front of, that's a different feeling. Anybody will tell you that. And I've always been amazed at the men and women who wrestle in front of WrestleMania crowds. Think of what Nick Nemeth is doing right now. The former Dolph Ziggler. He's going out there now, and he's on TNA, and he wrestled in New Japan, but he's working indie shows. That dude was on, his entire career is in front of thousands of people. His entire career is that. He didn't have an indie run. I am so intrigued when I see guys like that hit the indies and figure it out or not figure it out. There's some pride you kind of have to swallow. I'm sure he's getting nice paydays, and he's a big draw from basically 20 years in WWE, as he should be. He's picking his spots. He's not wrestling all the time, and he's an active part of the TNA roster. And we saw him in New Japan, and who knows where else he could pop up. But he's intriguing to me that he had that entire career in front of thousands of people and now is not wrestling in front of thousands of people. Even in TNA, he's not wrestling in front of thousands of people. I'd love to know what he thinks about TNA working with WWE, months after he was at that other company and spent his whole career there. What does that make him feel like now? He's going to be fine, but still, it's got to be odd. The former Dana Brooke just all of a sudden, her last appearance was basically in NXT, and then she showed up again this weekend as Ash by Elegance. That's got to feel odd. We'll see where that goes. Obviously, with NXT tonight, we will have a full review of NXT going up tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is where we always are, Monday through Friday, right here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. So make sure, as always, right under Todd, you subscribe, and we'll have more on NXT tomorrow, where that relationship is going. We'll see what comes out of NXT tonight. A couple more comments here. Cody had said they were all supposed to leave together, as in Ziggler and Cardona, but it ended up being him. Cody likes to say stuff. I'm not saying he's lying, but he likes to say stuff sometimes. Ryan, Toledo crowd was dead. Yeah, it was a long show last night. You were there. All right, so Ryan, you were there live. Let's get into Raw, because we have the poll up. Did you enjoy all 3 hours? Ryan, the opening segment with Drew and Priest and the Judgment Day. How did that go over in the building? Because I have been saying that a heel program, even though I think Drew still has his fans, it is hard for a crowd to deal with. Are you just supposed to boo everything? Are you supposed to cheer certain lines? Priest has been a heel for years as part of the Judgment Day. Drew McIntyre has been a heel for 6 months or so. Still has his fans out there, still very much playing a 1997 Bret Hart type character where he acknowledges the people that have stuck with him. At the same time, he doesn't care if people don't like him. He's trying to preach the truth. Drew seems to be willing to accept people as fans who are smart to what he's doing. And like he's okay with that. He's not just trying to shun everybody. He is accepting of fans who get what he's doing. I like that about him. It plays into the dynamic on Saturday at Clash of the Castle. So, to Ryan's point, because he was there, the crowd was dead. I don't know what you're supposed to do. It's such a, I don't want to say, it's more than different. It just goes against typical wrestling logic to go heel for weeks at a time. I mean, a heel program, because that's what it is. It won't be on Saturday because Drew will be the hometown guy, but it's a heel program. That kind of flies in the face of wrestling logic. Babyface also does, but at least you can keep the crowd involved. Who are they supposed to go behind? Who are they supposed to get behind? Ryan said, for a go-home show heading to an international PLE and knowing the hype it's going to be, knowing how hype the crowd is going to be, this was a letdown. I was expecting a great crowd with energy. Did they give them... See, here's the thing. How many baby faces stood tall last night? How many baby faces were presented in a big way last night? We'll get into all of it. But there's not much. What was there for the crowd to get into? We'll talk about Otis and all that stuff, and that's the obvious answer. Your main event was a heel and a heel. Liv and Dom is heel and heel. The women's tag match. We don't know what Alba and Isla are. And there's Shayna and Zoe. And you have Bianca and Jade on the outside. Really, just a bunch of heels or people that aren't that super over. Chad Gable gets booed because he should. That's fine. We'll talk about Bron Breakker today. He got all the shine. He was the heel. He wins the match. Sure, they have the fight with Ricochet, but it ends with Bron standing tall. It was a heel-ass show, and not a lot of people are super over. 3 hours felt like 3 hours last night. WDS WWE was hoping more matches could have been added to Clash of the Castle. I am attending the event, but some of the matches are underwhelming right now. Oh, interesting. You're going. I mean, look, it's a one-match show in terms of the draw. It's Drew's PLE. I know we have Cody and AJ last man standing. I know Piper's on the card. I know Alba and Isla are on the card. They didn't do enough to heat them up ahead of time. They were kind of just thrown on the card. This show has always been built around Drew McIntyre, and I understand that. Drew feels to me, as I continue to watch what he's doing, like he's a level above Damian Priest. It's just where he's at right now. I think Priest, you can hear it sometimes. He'll miss a word. There's a level of confidence that is not as high as Drew. He slips up a little bit. Drew is locked in right now. Drew feels like the guy on Monday Night Raw, because he is the guy on Monday Night Raw as it stands right now. Our poll so far, 66% of you saying you did enjoy all 3 hours of Raw last night. For those who enjoyed, that voted in the poll, please tell me. What did you like? Are you okay with what's going on with Drew and Damian right now? You do that big promo to open the show. By the way, they've kind of made Finn Balor too much of an afterthought. A little bit too much. I don't think we're taking care of Finn. I don't think we've taken care of Finn going back to Mania last year when he should have beaten Edge. But here's the closing shot of Monday Night Raw, basically. The main event, Drew beats Finn. Drew dispatches Judgment Day. Here's what was odd. So that match was, if Drew wins, no Judgment Day. Okay. And instead, Drew dismantles Judgment Day on the way to beating Finn. So basically it was like, yeah, even if they showed up, I can kick all their asses. Why do that if they're not going to be there? So Drew doesn't have to worry about Judgment Day. And I know that's playing into the fact that, last time they were over there, Bloodline, Solo, all that. It very much felt, and I see everybody saying in the chat, Corey, Punk is screwing Drew at Castle. Courtney says the same thing. It's almost like they're telegraphing it, though. By making a point, say, well, Judgment Day can't get involved. I don't feel like anybody's even thinking about Judgment Day getting involved. They even feel like the second. Everybody knows it's about Drew and Punk. And Punk has gone. And I noticed this last night. I thought about it again today, rewatching some highlights. It feels like Punk has gone too silent. And it's a little obvious. There he is, wearing his Jade Cargill shirt. He wants to be as jacked as Jade Cargill and something about his wife. I don't know. He posts weird stuff about women sometimes. I don't know. I don't know. But Punk's gotten a little too quiet. What do you want us? Is it too obvious on Saturday? Let's throw that there. As we pull up, we're going to put up another poll in a second. Is Drew versus Priest a PLE main event? And I want you to think of this way. Is this only a PLE level main event because of where they are this weekend? Think of that when you ask the question. Are you saying yes because it's in Scotland, or are you saying yes because you look at this match like a true main event? They also avoided any mention of Punk last night. Michael Cole even cut off McAfee at one point before he could say CM Punk. Yeah, Pat does whatever the hell he wants. And that kind of stuff bugs me. Because it's like when Money in the Bank winners go for the cash and go for the cash and go for the cash and go for the cash, and then they stop. And then they don't for a while, like Priest did. And then they come back. It's almost like they hide it. They've done this. I dealt with this. Okay, don't say that name because it's going to be that person. By not bringing up Punk, even though they've announced him for like Fanatics Con or whatever the hell, all these appearances, by not having Punk involved, it's very much a slap in the face of the fan base. Of course he cares about what's going on this weekend. Why hide that? What I would have done is had Punk booked somewhere on Friday night or Saturday and make a point of that. And then guess what? Then he still shows up. It's like they're trying to hide the obvious. Tom said the main event is Drew standing in front of his crowd with a belt at the end. Priest feels like a warm body because you can't just advertise one person for a match. I agree, Tom. Is there a world where Punk wants Drew to win? Because he wants to beat Drew for the World Heavyweight Championship. If Punk wants Drew so bad, why wouldn't he be the one? Why not lull him in? Show up at the end. Don't do anything. Show up after Drew wins. Because now, Drew Punk becomes interesting for the world title. And of course, Gunther has that shot at SummerSlam. it seems a little obvious for Punk to cost Drew. Now, we still have Money in the Bank before SummerSlam. There is that issue. And Gunther has the time. Who's to say it's not a triple threat at SummerSlam? And I don't want to see Gunther in a triple threat. I'm just saying. It's a little too obvious. Ryan saying, I think the story is more Punk costing Drew and his moment not once but twice. At what point is Punk kind of an asshole then? At what point? Also, Gunther beat Randy, albeit in controversial fashion. Did they run out of stuff for him to do? A big European wrestler not booked this weekend? A guy who's active on your program not booked this weekend? Feels like an oversight. A lot of people. I love the comments here. Let's get into some of these here as I'm seeing them. Dom, I'm going to pop these up myself just so you know. There we go. Here's one. Corey, no, Drew Punk is money with or without the championship. Damien is example of the superstar needing the championship more than the championship needing him. I agree with that, Corey. I agree with that overall sentiment. I also would say that's not a good thing. Drew Punk's bigger than anything that Priest is going to do. Drew Punk overshadows Priest and Gunther at SummerSlam. Because there's no way Drew Punk is one match. And it shouldn't be. I know you got Bash at Berlin and they're going to base Gunther around. Gunther walks out of SummerSlam world champ. Does it get overshadowed by everything else that's going to happen at SummerSlam? Does it get overshadowed by a match on his own brand? Oh, here's Dylan. Dylan's saying, I would love to see Gunther delay his title match and say, I want it in my country at Bash of the Berlin. Well, he's not German, first of all. You don't delay off of SummerSlam. You don't want to take the shine off of SummerSlam. Andre also noting a match that I also think is going to happen. Cody Randy at SummerSlam is the main event of SummerSlam. You can make an argument for Drew Punk if that happens, but Cody Randy at SummerSlam feels like that's the match. Daniel disagreeing. Too soon for Cody and Orton. Let's see what happens after this weekend when AJ loses to Cody again. Let's see. I don't think it is too soon. I could see them holding off Gunther since his moment is at the Berlin show. And that's from Tom. Does that mean he doesn't win at SummerSlam? Does he get or Tom, is that his first title defense against one Ilya Dragunov? I don't want Gunther losing. He lost already this year. I watched him lose once. That's enough for me. Especially considering he didn't win in a neat and tidy way, King of the Ring with Randy. Maybe they do Randy and Gunther again. I don't know. They're on different shows, though. That might be, it sets up maybe something down the road. Here's where I'm kind of thinking. Matthew Birch. It would be interesting if they did something where Judgment Day was getting involved and Punk comes out to help Drew so he could take credit for Drew winning the title just to mess with him further. I love that, Matthew. Excellent. Excellent. Obviously, Judgment Day can't get involved, but that is interesting. Or if he helps him at all. He wakes up the ref, whatever it may be. You needed me. You had your moment at home, and you still needed me to make that moment. I like that. Gunther and Cody needs to be saved for Mania. Sure. But Cody and Orton could happen at SummerSlam. And this is part of the issue here. I'll put this one up. The problem with Cody Randy is it almost makes Gunther win feel meaningless. Not necessarily, but I know what you're saying. You don't want it to get overshadowed. Here's a poll we have up. Would you rather see Gunther versus Drew, Priest, or Cody? Let's call it a title match. Drew at 43, Priest at 29, Cody at 29. We've seen Gunther and Drew one-on-one SummerSlam last year. We saw the triple threat at Mania with Sheamus for the IC title. What are the dynamics, though? That's the thing. Heel. Gunther should go after the United States champion. David, respectfully. He's also on a different brand from the U.S. title. Not that that stuff matters. They can move people around. But although now that you say that, Gunther Logan Paul is one of those, you know what? I'd like to watch that. More importantly, I'd like to watch that Impulsive episode because that seems to be where all the seeds for Logan Paul's matches get planted. Gunther on Impulsive. Oh, the numbers. Oh, boy. I'd love to do a chef reactions of that one. Gunther on Impulsive to set up Gunther Logan Paul. Forget the U.S. title. Let's set that up for the world title. Logan Paul versus Gunther. I kind of want to see that now. Not for the U.S. title. Make it bigger. Gunther Logan Paul at Bash at Berlin. Oh, now I'm intrigued. Now I kind of like this idea. I know a lot would have to happen, but I think there's something to that. Phil, I'd rather see Punk cost Drew the title this weekend, the Heat, pal, and have Drew versus Punk with that title at SummerSlam. Okay, you still have Money in the Bank, and I wonder if Punk cost Drew, does Punk get in Money in the Bank and Drew cost him? Andre, I think Triple H sincerely likes Damian, and he's pushing him out of an executive decision. He is well-liked. I will tell you that. I think Vince liked him. I know Hunter likes him. I know a lot of people are happy with the work he's done and the work that he puts in, and, he's thrown himself into all this. So, yeah, he certainly has support. I just don't know if he's over enough as a world champion. Dylan with another a good point here as it relates to Gunther. Yeah, you got to be careful with this. What happens if Roman comes back at SummerSlam? Another moment that takes away from Gunther. I will say I don't think that's happening. I still think Roman's getting held off till the start of the new contract. When SmackDown goes to USA. Raw's going to stick on USA until the end of the year. I still think they're going to wait. That is very much season premiere stuff. I'm not saying Roman's going to Bash in Berlin or anything like that, but I think they wait. I really do think they wait. Could be wrong. It is SummerSlam. It's a big deal. I get that. Oh, John, if only. Gunther versus Ilya at Bash in Berlin for the European Championship. My favorite title. If you get me on the right day, I can give you the whole history in order. By the way, if you subscribe at thewrestlingmatchshow.com, one of the bonus pieces of content we will have coming in the future is the show. I still have to figure out how to name it. We called it the War Room. It never went anywhere. But in WWE, we had this concept where we take a topic, the European title, and 4 people are in there, and they have to draft through 5 rounds the best roster of European champions. That was a storyline in one of the video games like 10 years ago. Somebody rechristened and they brought the European title back. I like that. That United Nations group wasn't Wade, Regal, Sheamus, and somebody. I remember that in the game. In a dream world, Gunther versus Ilya for the world title would main event night 1 next year. I'm not against that. Damian needs a nemesis. Maybe a Finn betrayal lights his fire. Will, I thought of that last night as I was watching them stand next to each other. Finn a little pissed off. He's been overlooked. There might be something to that. Tom, if Gunther wins the European title, D'Lo needs to go after it again. The chest protector versus the chops is money. Go follow Tom's page. WCW Deep Cuts. The chest protector. And then Gunther rips it off him. And then he puts it on like Val Venus did. Sorry for dropping that name at SummerSlam 98. And he hits the splash, like that Gunther splash, the only ugly move he does. Get 10-7 and stretch him. Are you ready to see? Here's a new poll we have going up. Are you ready to see Damian Priest drop the title? Are we good with the run already? Are there more important places to put that championship? My whole thing is if he's not getting the spotlight, then this is not the time. He shouldn't have been made champion. Ryan says Damian saying he didn't need Judgment Day is going to bite him in the end. Maybe. Once again, this all is up, where they go with Punk. Finn taking the key card to go after the sneaky link. Liv Morgan would break up the Judgment Day. I mean, they were seen having conversations in the backgrounds of some stuff in recent months. So there is something there. Maybe. That key card. Once again, I mean, I don't know. If you are watching the show right now on X, please make sure you take yourself over to the WrestlingMatchShow.com over here on YouTube and vote in the poll, as we'll continue to be putting up polls throughout the show. Love getting you guys involved in that way. Keon Hicks, I just want to see Drew win, but if Finn screws him, it's better. Judgment Day ban, they got to get around that. First name John, a lot of title runs feel insignificant, and it's kind of how priests feel. Yeah, I agree with that. So, once again, you're doing the big launch with Cody. It's his time. And then on Raw, it's Priest. But Drew and Punk's the bigger story. And Rhea's gone. Now you're also trying to make Liv a thing. And your first title defense was against also somebody that they're trying to really go with the single star, Jey Uso. It just felt like the timing was wrong. It's like they were stuck because Priest had won Money in the Bank. It was almost like, how do we get this thing off of him? That thing can be an albatross. You have the whole year. But that thing can absolutely be an albatross. And it very clearly, with what happened, we were getting Punk at Seth at Mania for the world title. That was happening. I don't think Priest was getting involved in that. I think they tried to do something, and I don't think it's worked. Like to see it on Drew, even if Drew doesn't need it. Guess I'm greedy. No. I want Drew to be a heel world champion. I have no problem with Punk taking it from him, but I'd rather it happen. Broken kayfabe, Triple H, he's a Triple H guy, Priest. This is a classic example. I don't think it's favoritism. I don't have a problem with trying to push Priest up. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's a poorly timed situation. It's film on air. This is it. Priest is overshadowed, but he also isn't being done any favors by being booked against heels when he's supposed to be a heel. Yeah, how is he supposed to get over as a heel? 60% of you are already saying you want to see Priest lose the title. You can vote right now on our poll at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. It's just poorly timed. It's just poorly timed. You want to interact on a show, this is the one to do it. I know we are we are the most interactive show out there. Love talking to you guys, the polls. You got to vote right now at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Subscribe if you have not done so yet. Community is very active here, as you can see. Ryan, Jey Uso, in my opinion, needs a victory like Money in the Bank. WWE shouldn't let him cool off. I tend to agree with that. Got to be careful. He's over because of Yeet. He's over because of his entrance. The match quality, not so good. There needs to be, if you got somebody that hot, you got to keep them hot. He'll get Money in the Bank, and the qualifiers are coming up. Matthew, who's been on the ball today. I love Priest, but I feel like if Punk never got hurt, Punk would have beat Seth at Mania, and Priest would eventually just had a fail cash in on Punk. Maybe not a fail cash in, but they could have put it off a little bit. A cash in on Punk could have worked. It's just bad timing. And I know with injuries and stuff that happens, but it feels like bad timing. You know what's not bad timing, though? What's going on with Bron Breakker right now? In, I think, like the first week of this show, I talked about how I wasn't in on Bron Breakker. And that was because of I thought he floundered in NXT during his world title reign. I thought he picked it back up with the stuff with Baron Corbin. I explained a couple times that he was a very tough person to interview. He did not give you much. I wanted to get more out of him. So what has WWE done with Bron? They're not letting him talk. And they're not letting him say much. And instead, he's fucking shit up. And I think that's the best way to describe Bron Breakker. He's just fucking shit up. In the best way possible. Has the match with Ilya Dragunov last night. There's the match. And I loved what they did with Ilya, by the way. Another great match. Ilya gets to look like you just can't put this guy down. And he fights too hard. And he won't stay down, and it cost him. What a great use of a 10 count, by the way. Gets annihilated by Bron on the outside. Bron happy to take the count-out victory because of the destruction that he caused. And Ilya just keeps fighting to get back in the ring. That's how you beat a guy that you still want to go with. It's how he's presented. It's how the match is put together. So as soon and smartly by Bron Breakker, he doesn't have to be an idiot. He doesn't have to be a lunkhead. As soon as he saw Ilya coming in the ring, he started up for the spear. Great stuff. Here's a poll we're going to have going up here in a second. Is Bron Breakker's biggest win going to be over Brock Lesnar? We're putting that poll up. I'd love to. I see some of you guys, Ryan, let's get some of these comments up here, and I'll show you what I think. Bron's like Goldberg 2.0, but better, and that's coming from a childhood Goldberg fan. Certainly not as over, and obviously presented as a heel versus Goldberg as a babyface. Keon Hicks, top 3 story behind Chad and Liv and Dom. Well, I'm not a big Liv Dom person. I don't think that story's for me. I know it's over. Let's talk about this. Did we already discuss that hellacious bump Ricochet took on the spot to the truck? Watching from work, got busy, blah, blah, blah. He really went out making Bron look like a beast. Exactly what I saw. I thought the same thing. And I trust the excellent reporting of Mike Johnson. That's it for Ricochet. Ricochet did business last night. Comes out at the end to save Ilya. I got your back. Fights Bron off. Bron escapes to the crowd. Ricochet taking care of Ilya. All of a sudden, the medical personnel, not available for some reason. A little bit of a little gap in the storytelling there. Spears Ilya. He's out of the mix. Now we get the fight. And we have to watch Ricochet fight. He kept trying to go into kicks and all that stuff. But he got overpowered. I love Bron launching him. Everybody made the comparison. Nash and Rey Mysterio into the trailer. He took a hell of a bump on that. That did not look fun coming back down. And then he goes up the stairs and he power slams Ricochet through a window. Stretcher job. Sam comes off of doing ring announcing. And she's crying because she knows how to do that. And bye-bye. See you later. Ricochet did business going out the door. And props to him for going through with that. That was not a fun way to finish things up. He got whooped. And I'm sure a lot of that hurt. Let's put up another poll. It was a very important poll. Do you think CM Punk was mad they used real glass? It's a fair question. Going back to our past poll, is Bron Breakker's biggest win going to be over Brock Lesnar? 53% of you say no. I will say this. Using Sam the way WWE did and her being upset over what happened to her guy, I don't want to overly praise it because it's such an obvious thing to do. Like, yeah, we know their connection. That one time she gave him a kiss and he got all powered up like he got a super mushroom in Mario Brothers. So they've acknowledged it before. It's a thing. Of course she'd be upset. I like, just think of how Renee was handled when it came to Ambrose Moxley. She had to ignore everything. She like couldn't comment on stuff. She had to bite her. It never made. It was such an awkward spot to put her in. And instead, last night I was like, "Oh yeah, he's destroyed. She should be upset." And you know, as WWE tends to do, you just sprinkle a little McAfee on it, and everything's fixed. When in doubt, sprinkle a little Pat on it. Oh, Pat did that on his show. We should do that here. This is not a knock on Pat. I'm just saying. That is a line of thinking in that company. A little Pat here. A little Pat right here. A little Pat right here. Oh, Pat did that on the Pat McAfee show. We should do that on another show. It works for him. That is a line of thinking in that company. Not everybody is Pat McAfee. If you have the real thing, that's fine. If you're trying to make other things the Pat McAfee show, it doesn't work because it's not Pat McAfee. Side comment on that one. Bron Breakker, somebody put it up before. He needs better music. Because I heard it and I was like, ooh, what jobber tag team is he in? Music stinks. I teased this before we came on the air of who I think Bron Breakker actually is. And he's not his uncle. To me, Bron Breakker is Psycho Sid. And by the way, give him that theme music. That's what I want him to be. Not Powerbomb doing the goal. I mean, like ECW Sid with the choke slams and all that. You know, Psycho Sid, who would do anything, who would beat up Jose Lothario with a camera if he needed to. Go with that. I don't want Bron talking that much. I think it will kill his aura. Short, quick stuff. Let his intensity speak for itself. I'm going to run roughshod over this entire show. Adam Pearce, you wanted me, you got me. First name John, right there. Straight psychopath, Bron Breakker. I like that. That's what Bron Breakker should be. I think he's already there. That should be the template for Bron Breakker. Psycho Sid. Different size and all that stuff. But someone you cannot control. I already had the next feud for him. And someone's got to stand up to him. Someone's got to stand up to him that he can beat. Someone's got to stand up to him who may, you could say, have a loose relationship with Ricochet. Someone who's a veteran. Someone who says you can't do this. Can you imagine Bron Breakker spearing the living shit out of Rey Mysterio? Because I can. I definitely can. I remember when Roman did it. Bron Breakker needs to go up against uber baby faces. Rey Mysterio is one of those guys. And he can avoid stuff. He could be quick, even though he's older. Rey standing up to him. And if you need to throw some LWO guys in the mix for Bron to cut in half, go ahead and do so. I love the idea of Bron Breakker spearing right out of his mask. Pablo said, why not his name can't be a Steiner? I believe because Rick and Scott own the name. I don't know that for sure, though. I think that might be part of it. Bron versus Sami Zayn could be great. From Derek. Cam brought up Sheamus, which is an interesting one. My concern with Sheamus is he is much bigger than Bron Breakker. Much bigger. Bigger than you realize. Bron's not that big. Think of who he's been in there with. Ilya, not big. Ricochet, not that big. Does Bron need a mouthpiece, says Will Morris, or do they continue to make him the Predator? Oh, let's see this again. Make him Predator out in the woods. For now, I think he's fine. There is an element of, and I say this positively before everything went to shit, there's an element of Ryback here. There's an element of ECW Rhino here. There's an element of Psycho Sid here. Connection? Nobody talked. Actions were all you needed. I want Adam Pearce and the WWE officials trying to pick up the pieces. The wake that Bron Breakker leaves behind. Who stops that? I think it's a big baby face like a Rey Mysterio. You just need someone like Ricochet is a baby face. It's amazing to me that the biggest story Ricochet has ever had in wrestling is on maybe his last night in the company. Maybe there is something to the thought that he comes back, but for what? To get beat again? You can do one too many things there. Bron sent him out of the company in an ambulance with his wife or girlfriend or whatever she is right next to him. That's good enough for me. Ricochet being gone the way he did it, good business. I also think it leaves the door open for a return. Think about that in a few years. Bron is ascending. Who comes back? Ricochet. Bron's IC champ or whatever the hell he is in a couple of years. Maybe he's higher than that. Who comes back? Ricochet. I think Ricochet did great business going out the door last night. And I think when you do that kind of business, the company remembers that. And they remember that down the road. He did everything you could possibly ask of a guy last night. Pablo says, also, do you believe it's a work? Because why put Samantha in the ambulance? There's no payoff. Yeah, the payoff is Bron fucked him up. They were using her to sell it. That's all. Aubrey, imagine Bron Breakker versus Braun Strowman. Listen, Chad Gable did suplex Braun Strowman. That'd be interesting. That's an interesting one. That might be a Mania match. Now that you say that, Aubrey. If Braun's on the way up, and let's get this poll up there. Do you see Braun in a PLE main event this calendar year? And I'd say let's disqualify Money in the Bank ladder match. Does Braun have a match as a PLE main event this year? Braun versus Ricochet was a tag team as well. Cam, a good point there. I do wonder, though, if that's a bit, Braun beating Braun. Braun. Vince would have never let that happen, by the way, on the same show. Braun as a Rumble. Not Rumble. No, it's a Mania. I think that's a Mania match. I think so. Ooh, yes. Tyler says he's final two in the Rumble. I don't know. I thought Bron got anointed way too fast. I think his shortcomings were on display in NXT. I think he needed Corbin, and I think they've booked him well since then. He still has to keep evolving. There is no doubt about that. But they're doing an excellent job with Bron Breakker. I will make that clear. Very quickly here, that women's title, tag team title stuff, complete afterthought. I don't. God, could you have made Bianca and Jade seem any less important last night? Another poll here. Who's better booked, AEW women or WWE women? I won't answer that right now. I want to see what you think. But, oh shit, Alba and Isla are Scottish. We better get them on the show. And then Shayna with a bad knee, and Zoe beat them. And Bianca Jay were like, all right, cool. And let's go to that match. One of the five matches on the show. Here you go. I guess we're doing this. See you on Saturday. Could you have any less heat going into a match? Woof. To answer the question, Tyler Blair saying, right, AEW right now, for sure, especially with the Tony Storm stuff. Yes. Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Mercedes. Somebody said, oh, Corey, the real answer is NXT women. The most overrated women's division might be the NXT one because it's all I hear about how good it is. It's booked a lot. It's still developmental. I keep saying this. They have a lot of women. There's a lot of potential. It doesn't mean it's that good. It's fine. Talk to me in a year. Let's see where everybody's at. Sol Ruka, JC Jane, Thea, Jada Parker, Lash Legend. We don't have to put this. Like, not everything has to be the best right away. 82% of you say WWE so far. I am baffled by that. I maybe that's just people not watching AEW. I don't know. I would absolutely lean AEW. My critiques of the NXT women's roster are they're booked. It doesn't mean they're all great. There is a lot of green shit happening in the ring. And that's fine. That's totally fine. It's developmental. I think Fallon Henley is head and shoulders above anybody else in terms of being a worker. There are people that have more potential than her. You can point to Lash Legend. I get that. Roxanne, up until a couple weeks ago, wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire. Tom, hit it. WWE books more women. AEW gives women more to sink into. Yes. WDS, a point I made the other day. I think the fact that NXT had to bring in someone from TNA to give Roxanne a PLE match shows you the depth of challengers Roxanne has right now in NXT. Yes. And the fact that Jordan got over and looked like she outshined the entire locker room. She's got more experience. But she has taken advantage of every second she's gotten on that show. Of every second of WWE camera time, Jordan has taken advantage of it. She projects as a big fucking deal. She projects as a main eventer. That should have main evented that show. I think there would have been more, actually. I think there was more intrigue about Roxanne and Jordan because I think it was very believable for Roxanne to win. For Jordan to win. Lean AEW for what? Okay, let's read this. Tony Storm, yes, the best character in AEW. Yeah. Ooh, Botcha Banks. She had a hell of a match with Willow at the pay-per-view. That's weak shit. List of other talented botchers they have: AEW, Ruin, Taya, and Peraza. Taya does not belong getting any kind of push. Deanna and Thunder have once again, not everybody can be booked for the title. Deep can wrestle, but they book her like crap. Deep can't cut a promo to save her life. She's boring. I don't care if she can work. They have enough people who can work in that company. Not everybody's going after the title. I like that Deanna and Thunder Rosa have a non-title feud going on. Right now in WWE, you have Bayley and Piper and living just last night, Zelina Vega. And a thrown-together tag team title match. It ain't even close. NXT books a lot of them. They're still trying to figure shit out, as they should be, because it's developmental. In general in wrestling, we should have more women's storylines that don't have to be about a title. Can bring up Athena, a little bit banged up right now. Would like to see her back on Collision and Dynamite on a regular basis. Billy Starks right now, doing a nice job at Ring of Honor. The right spot for her to be in. What are they doing? They're getting her reps. She got to do character work for a very long time. With Athena, it worked. She's young. Take your time. If you want the women to be booked well, then they have to be booked consistently. Toni Storm we see on a regular basis. That story with her and Mariah and Mina was not known. They've now filled in those gaps, or they've made an effort to. Tony's the most fleshed out character in AEW right now. Consistently booked. Chris Statlander and Willow are in the midst of something that started months ago, which led into Mercedes. Mercedes wins. She's going to have Stephanie Vaquer coming up at Forbidden Door. They book her tag team partner for the title match tomorrow night. They're trying to fill in the gap. At least it has some logical sense. Willow and Chris probably end up somewhere together in the Owen to talk about their feud. I love that Tony said to Nigel on Saturday, you know, Nigel, what do you think? It seems like Willow's really locked in on one opponent or one person in a tournament where there's other people to worry about. And as a result, you don't know where that story's going to go. Will they meet in the finals? Will one cost somebody out? It's good. There's a lot of stories that are going on right now with the women. And they're getting reactions. And that is a good thing. Well, let's talk about Chad Gable, because I guess he signed, huh? Really good last night, costing Otis the match. Very simple stuff. Costing the match. This whole thing where he's running everywhere. Look at the faces. Look at Maxine. Look at Tozawa. Oh, they're so sad. Otis conflicted, sad, trying to take care of his people. That free Otis sign was in a great spot. And Sammy's going, are you happy? Do they look happy? Why? Look what he's doing. And Chad talks to Otis a little bit too much during the match. Luva kick 1, 2, 3. Didn't matter at all. Good win for Sammy heading into the pay-per-view. Exactly what he should be getting. And here we go again. What's Otis going to do? And he puts Sammy down, as we have seen. But then he comes back to Chad. And we get another tease. And it doesn't happen. But the reaction, as we heard, not a great crowd in Toledo last night. They were there for that shit. Every crowd has been there for that. How about this poll? Is Chad Gable the best heel on television right now? on WWE television right now? You could say, is he the best heel in all of professional wrestling right now? It's a fair question. If the question, there's two things here. Number one, when do you pull the trigger on Otis turning on Chad? Number two, does Chad win this weekend? I think Otis goes to do something to Chad. It backfires. Chad wins. He loves Otis for helping him. Otis comes across conflicted. And you keep stretching that out. As Keon noted, and I wrote this down, in the background last night, Chad was talking to Ivy Nile. I think everybody, myself included, believes that Chad will have the Creed brothers as heaters. They certainly need some direction. I would lay off of reviewing Taco Bell and referencing the females in the company and comparing them, because that was really dumb. The Creeds and maybe Ivy with Chad is a good move, because he needs to still be a chicken shit. He needs people to protect him and maybe protect the IC title. And maybe if we get a Chad versus Otis match for the IC title, instead of making that happen, that would obviously, after Otis has had enough, that's where the Creeds debut as the backup for Chad, and Otis does not win the IC title, and Chad keeps it that much longer. I hope the Creeds are ready for that spot. I hope they are. I don't think their run on Raw has gone as expected, but it does make sense. Raw ratings last night, we'll hit this here. 1.6 million, 0.5 in the 18 to 49. That's the lowest rating since May of 13, so a month ago, and the lowest demo since January. It is the summer. Down 4% last week, down 4% in the last 4 weeks from WrestleNomics. A little down in their June average. I think because it's just not a hot show right now. And you have a very heel-heavy show. No Rhea. No Becky. Those are big. No Seth. No Punk. Babyface, babyface, babyface. Rhea's going to be a bit. A lot of star power gone. You expect the lull after Mania a bit, especially when you load it up and you do what you did with Rock and Roman and Taker and Cena and all that stuff. There's not a hot program for the world title on Raw, or there hasn't been. The Drew stuff, to me, the Drew program is Punk. It just happens to be that he's facing Priest coming up on Saturday. It's not hot because they're heels. I'm not surprised Raw's down. It feels like a long 3-hour show. There are more lowlights than highlights. And that's just the way it is right now. Very quickly here, as it was posted on this day in WWE on social media, OTD_in_WWE. Today, 30 years ago, Hulk Hogan signed with WCW. And he had the parade at Disney and all that stuff. And a lot of people thought that would be, and Bishop said, I got to go get him. And they got him. But you have to remember, and there is a little of this in current day, Hulk was a WWF guy. WCW/NWA had Rick. Obviously, a little more based in the South. Hogan was the sports entertainer. Sure, they went right to him. Rick helped bring him in, and then Hulk beat him. And then Hulk was the guy. And they Remember this. Hogan in 94. He's there. They throw him with Savage, all that stuff. Dungeon of Doom. It's not hot, all that. By 95, he's getting booed. By 95, he's saying, observe this, brother, and ripping stuff. Like, it wasn't working. And they handed him everything. Here you go, Hulk. Whatever the hell you want to do. And he did whatever the hell he wanted to do. He was wearing black with red before the NWO. They took him off TV for a few months. And then obviously he was the third man. Hulk had to turn heel. Okay. And you could say, listen, the end of the WWF run was going that way anyway. In 93, it should have been Bret's show. Hogan wouldn't do business. So they went with Yoko and the exploding camera, and then Hulk was gone. Like, you guys did those European tours, and that was it. He was gone. Thunder in Paradise just happened to be shooting nearby. Tom noting, Hogan's WCW contract, some of the funniest things to read. It cannot be understated they gave him everything. Everything. They gave him the UPC codes on things that weren't even his because he got them. He could do whatever he wanted. Go back. I didn't remember this clearly. The amount of pay-per-views he doesn't appear on in the NWO run is like unbelievable. It's Roman-esque. It very much is Roman-esque. But he had that creative control. Poll we're going to put up here, was Hulk Hogan signing with WCW the beginning of the end? And it's an interesting question because you're going to go, well, they got hot because of the NWO. Yeah. And they were out of business 6 years later. Shit, his first year and a half wasn't good. He needed to go heel. I happen to think, personally, the beginning of the end really is the Sting match at Starrcade. They just didn't book it correctly. A story that is told last week on Who Killed WCW. I will talk. We'll talk more about that show in upcoming weeks. But that booking was, I mean, it was. It's funny how Bischoff's like, oh, yeah, I found out you could do long-term storytelling. No shit, dude. I think Hogan and what happened on that show was the beginning of the end. There isn't one answer to this. You could put blame on Bischoff. You could put blame on Hogan. You probably could put some blame on Kevin Nash. You could put some blame on Vince Russo. You could put blame on the various executives that mess with things. It's not just one thing, and they're going to tell that story. Shit, you could blame Vince. Vince saw what they were doing and turned it all the way up. Kevin Nash has said, yeah, at some point we had to start dealing with standards and practices. I talked to Tommy Blotcha yesterday on Busted Open, Mark Henry, who was writing right after Russo left, and he was like, yeah, we could pretty much do whatever the hell we wanted. And I said, was that to a detriment? Was that helpful? He goes, well, it was good because we basically had carte blanche, but it also was tough because you got to keep turning it up. WWE was allowed to keep doing that. WCW ran into, they had a glass ceiling of standards and practices at some point. And they couldn't keep up anymore. Nash told the story in his podcast last week of Kevin Sullivan saying, you feel the tide? Whatever the hell he said. He used some kind of very specific terminology or phrase when Tyson showed up. You know, I think Conan was on there saying, yeah, we used to watch Raw because it was cooler. I've been in that before. I have felt that before. Those first couple early years of AEW, I was watching, and I'm going, this is better than what is being presented that I have to talk about today. There it is. Thank you, Rob. The water was getting chilly. That's what Kevin Sullivan. I'm not going to do a Kevin Sullivan voice. The water was getting chilly. That's what he said to, and Nash knew it. There it is. You feel the water getting cold. That, they knew. Shit, Kevin Sullivan had been up and down. He saw everything. It's weird when you watch the competition do something better than you and you know it. I went through that in the first couple of years of AEW when I was watching them put on a more intriguing product, an interesting product. I think they handled the pandemic better at times. It's a weird thing to feel. It's different now versus then. I say this all the time. I said it when I was there. There is room for two major wrestling companies to make a shit ton of money in this day and age. There is plenty of room for AEW to get a new TV contract, not draw the ratings that WWE gets on Mondays and Fridays, still be wildly successful, while WWE continues to make more money than they ever had before. There's plenty of room for both of those things. During the Monday Night Wars, there wasn't. That's just how everybody operated. WCW tried to do too much. They spent too much money. They let the inmates run the asylum. I think that's a big part of it. And WWE, look where they were in the New Generation era. Look, some of those buildings are running raw. It's rough. The stories of those memos going out to Titan Towers. Well, you can't use the phone or you're going to have to pay for long-distance calls, and we're taking this out, and there goes the copier machine. And they were cutting corners anywhere they could. But I do believe that now, I think AEW needs to tighten a lot of things up. Absolutely they do. I think they need better infrastructure. I think they need some more infrastructure in general. I know there's a lot of people who work their ass off there because I talk to them, and I know they do. But they need more help in that place. Not on screen, not in the ring. They got plenty of talent. I know a decent amount of people that are stretched very thin or they don't know what they're doing. That's correctable. That is correctable. They're going to get paid well on this TV deal. I just think that money needs to be invested back into things in the company that aren't about wrestlers in the ring. They have plenty of those. More than enough of those. They're nowhere near WCW. If they were at WCW, they wouldn't be on their way to a new TV deal. So we'll see what the next episode brings. But Hogan was certainly a shift in how WCW handled things. And they did pivot when he wasn't working out. And I think they got 2 good years of the NWO, and then that was it. They felt way more week to week. It didn't feel like they had a big plan. It didn't feel like the captain was steering the ship. It felt like the Pirates had taken over the ship. Will Mars. Connie needs to delegate more. He seems like he's... I don't think you're wrong about that. You can also have a lot of too many people in their ear. You know what I like to see? I want to see a week of AEW television where nobody from The Office is wrestling or appearing on screen. That shit happens all the time. People who are on-screen characters and also have some kind of office or position in the company, they don't miss too many shows. I do think that's an issue for the company. I think they have to maybe fix some priorities there. However, Jeff Jarrett could be on TV every week because he's still great. I will say that. Can you agree that Young Bucks is running that product horribly? It's not on the Bucks if you're saying they're on-screen characters. I don't like the meta-ness of the Young Bucks being heels. I think they take care of their people, but I still think it's Tony's show. I saw somebody mention it. Bret, just the Dark Side of the Ring social media, just posting all of the stuff. I love Bret so much. I got to interview him a few times. Have you seen the Bret Hart clip today? Bret is unintentionally funny. Any interactions you have with Bret? Yes, I did. So I interviewed Bret a handful of times. I once wore the white Hitman Roots of Fight sweatshirt on a day he had it, and I never used to do that. And I was like, okay. That was a highlight for me. There was a moment where I was like, oh, shit, I'm interviewing Bret Hart. That was pretty cool. I interviewed Bret. Here's a story that no one would know because you never saw the interview. If you remember, there was a show WWE produced called Icons. And they did a Yoko one, and they did a Beth Phoenix one, and a Lex Luger one was announced. So very similar to the post-mortem show that we did, which was kind of the post-show that we did for the Taker last Friday. And I've talked the story about Shane went into business for himself in the interview, and we had AJ and Michelle McCool and Shawn Michaels. So we wanted to do something similar with Icons. So for the Yoko one, we interviewed Rikishi, Bret. I think we had Slaughter on one of those. But the Rikishi interview about Yoko was unbelievable because that Yoko Icons is so well done, and it's sad based on what happened in his life. But I remember interviewing Rikishi, and he got emotional, and we got emotional interviewing him. So we did it again with Beth Phoenix, and we interviewed Mickie James and Molly Holly, and I think Al Snow was on there. So they announced the Luger one, which I believe was July 4, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're coming up on 2 years ago. So we picked out... Oh, there was an RVD one, too. We interviewed... I remember we interviewed RVD. And that was cool. And he... This is available. I forgot who else we interviewed with RVD, but we interviewed RVD, and he was in like his weed shop, I think, or something like that. And he had like a computer like I'm on right now where his camera was. And you could see sitting next to the computer was just like he had just like grinded up weed, and it was just sitting there. And I was like, cool, this is RVD. I mean, it was perfect. But then there was a Lex one. It was supposed to come out July 4 weekend of 2 years ago. Of course. So we interviewed for that Icons, I think we called it Icons Revisited. That was the name of the show. We interviewed Flair, Bischoff. Oh, was it 3 years? Okay, it might have been 3 years. This never aired. Icons Revisited never aired with Lex because Icons Lex never aired. Flair, Bischoff, and Bret. Oh, I don't have it. So Flair was nice about Lex, and Bischoff was solid and talked about Monday Night Wars and all that. And we interviewed Bret. And I say this knowing how Bret has felt about other people, Goldberg and stuff like that. I didn't think he'd like Lex, or not that he would dislike him. I didn't think and he put him over big. He liked working with Lex. He talked about the Rumble 94 and how that went. And, he liked Lex. And he said, I felt bad for Lex. I thought they put him in a bad spot. Everything they had to do with it. I thought the SummerSlam thing was bad. Like, he was very complimentary of Lex. And I remember, one of my last interviews I did on The Bump, we had Lex on. And we showed him that clip. It had never aired before. And he was, like, emotional. He was taken aback by it, which I thought was pretty cool. But Bret put over Lex Luger. I got to say, I just didn't expect it to happen. There is a story where there is the cabinet of one of the games. I want to say it was WrestleMania. And there's Bret goes to Acclaim, I think it is Bret goes and helps them get the game together, and he checks into work. There's a picture of Bret putting a move on the cabinet. And the question was, I believe this was me and RJ City had this argument, was he doing the side backbreaker? He picked the guy up over here and one of Bret's moves, or was he doing the Russian leg sweep? And I had to get the answer. So I showed Bret the picture. And in true Bret fashion, he said, well, I think I was doing both. And he talked us through. RJ wasn't there at the time. I was doing this with Ryan Popola. I was like, I got to show you this. I literally walked up to the camera and I was like, and I brought my camera. I was like, Bret, it's right. And I showed it to him. And he said, well, I couldn't really get my he literally, as people like to say, he regaled it. He literally broke down why he was doing what he was doing to an arcade cabinet. And I was like, well, it looks like you're doing the sidewalk, you're doing the sidewalk backbreaker. And he's like, well, I was kind of doing both. And he literally broke it down from a technical wrestling standpoint. I was so happy that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm glad we were both right, because Bret literally just told us how he did or acted a wrestling move on an arcade cabinet. And Bret Hart is the best. And I'm glad I got to interview him multiple times, and hopefully I get to talk to him again soon. One more poll here. Are you looking forward to NXT tonight? Let us know. There's a Singapore cage match tonight with Lexis King and Dante Chen. That's on the show. Mia Yim and Jada Parker's on the show tonight. We'll see if the TNA relationship continues in any way, shape, or form. I'd like to know where that goes. But the poll is up. We will continue to be posting these polls throughout the show and the shows as they come. You'll get a full NXT breakdown tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, as always. And on Thursday, we'll talk, as always, we'll talk some Dynamite, as they've announced a few things. The Trios match, which is interesting. They've announced, obviously, Rey Fenix and Ospreay. They've announced some things, not on a Tuesday. They've gotten them out on a Monday, so that's good. We'll see what else they add. RM, real quickly, any stories about Scott Steiner? I'm crazy that I watch a lot of Scott's TNA promos. The only thing, and I told this story, you got to go back, and I don't want to tell it again because Dan and I tell it kind of together. Go back and watch the interview with myself and Dan Reichert. There's a very good Scott Steiner story from WrestleMania a couple years ago. And to do that, if you haven't, right here. Right here. Subscribe at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Past the interviews, Dan Reichert and I talk about all different kinds of wrestlers, including Undertaker, including Scott Steiner. Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder, has been on the show as of late, recently. The Joey Janela has been on the show. Chef Reaction's been on the show, and Chef will be part of the show. And next week, we will be dropping. And you will only find out if you turn the notifications on by subscribing at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Turn that bell on, because you won't know when we're going to drop the episode with myself and Chef Reactions watching the first Nitro. Right below Todd. There's Todd. Hello, Todd. And right there, thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Go back and watch that. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. A lot to talk about NXT. As always, thank you all for joining us. We went all over the place today. A little WCW, a little Bret Hart, a little inside story on Lex Luger, heel Raw, all of it. And as Tom said, hopefully Chef wears the Lex Luger white shirt. Yes, the Nuru shirt that was designed by former Atlanta Hawks player Kevin Willis, or as Lex Luger referred to him as, a clothier, because Lex is just that much higher up in the world than all of us. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to our crew behind the scenes. Make sure you follow us on social media at WrestlingMatt23. Get your questions in there, thoughts, comments, what you'd like to see from the channel. Do that, and get into our community at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Plenty of polls going up there, and I answer every single comment, pretty much 99.9% that pops up on our YouTube videos that are already there. So you want to hear from me? That's another way to do it. I'll be back with you tomorrow when we'll be talking about wrestling even more. See you tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Wrestling Mat.